Welcome to Business Over a Brew, the show where we talk business with some of the Riverbend's most interesting and influential business people, all while enjoying a nice brew at Elijah P's Burgers and Brews in Alton. In this episode, we'll talk with Riverbend Growth Association President Monica Bristow. Monica spent 22 years with Olin before taking over as president of the Growth Association in 2003. In this episode, she shares some great insights about what makes a successful business person and what she hopes for the Riverbend business community in the future. So let's get to it. It's the Business Over a Brew podcast from Elijah P's. Welcome to Business Over a Brew. Cheers. Thanks for coming in.
Glad to be here.
With Monica Bristow, president of the Riverbend Growth Association. And I've always thought that you had a job that was really cool for somebody that grew up in the area and obviously cares deeply about the area. And you get to have a real day-to-day impact.
I don't know if I have a day-to-day impact, but I absolutely love it. It does. I feel lucky to do it every day. I do know a lot of people and do know what's going on, and I do like having that knowledge and knowing those people.
I think it's not a position that, I don't know if it's one that you say when you set out and go to college that I'm going to be president of
nobody
the
in the chamber
it's kind of
world,
like radio, you just end up there.
Yeah, in the chamber world of economic development ever, I think, plans on doing it. And when I came in, other than being a volunteer on the board, I knew nothing about economic development. But fortunately, we had a budget so that I could go to classes and take classes on economic development, and went through the International Economic Development Council's entire program of economic development.
Well, let's just start with talk a little bit about growing up in the area and what your life was like as a child.
Well, went to Catholic school, went to St. Ambrose, and then went on to Alton High, and then worked at Olin in high school.
Okay.
So did the morning program at high school and the afternoon program at Olin. Left there and went to secretarial school, and went back to Olin and got hired as a secretary there. And then Olin, 22 years there. I always say I grew up there. I had 11 jobs in 22 years there.
Well, every other year.
Every other year.
You got to do something different.
Yeah, just about. But they also paid for my schooling, so I got my degree, Bachelor in Business, through Olin at Lindenwood.
And then straight from Olin
I was a volunteer at the Growth Association for quite a few years. I was on their board because I was in public relations at Olin. And so I learned about the Growth Association. And I can also say I lived in my own little world up until the time I got into public relations, and then started reading the paper and listening to news and paying attention to what's going on in the community.
Sure.
And then that just led into
How has the organization changed? You've been there almost 15 years now.
Right.
What are some of the changes that you've seen in 15?
Technology.
I mean, a lot, obviously.
Yeah. And not only have I been there 15 years, Debbie Hagan, who is our research person, has been there for 22 years, and I think Jan about 18 years. And so the changes they've seen in technology alone. Our newsletters were literally typed up on typewriters before word processors. When I got there, we at least had email and that kind of thing. But I'd probably say technology is the biggest change. And in economic development, things kind of go in circles, like anything else. This is what they're doing today. It's not what they're doing the next week or next year. So it just changes.
Well, and I've said too, I was at the radio station for 10 years, from basically 2000 to 2009, left for 6 years and came back. And the impact that social media has had on all of us, and radio, and just every aspect of our lives has been really incredible.
I think so too. And
not always in a good way, I think.
That's true too. But we're reaching more people.
Sure.
Reaching a whole lot more people.
Right, and there's more ways to engage with, from our standpoint, more ways to engage with listeners, and from your standpoint, more ways to engage with members.
Yeah, and one thing I'm really liking the trend with us these days is younger people getting involved, and that's typically a problem in the chamber world. But with adding Trish Holmes as our director of member services, she brings this young, fresh perspective. And now we've got Alex St. Peters, who is an intern, is a marketing intern, and helping her. and he's taking care of a lot of our social media stuff, and we're reaching a more diverse membership.
Right. And while we're on the subject of youth, I think one of the best initiatives in the area over the last few years has been the Riverbend CEO program.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm so excited about that one. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that program. And
that one took a while to get in the making, but it's been going on, starting in Effingham, Illinois, about 10 years ago now, I think. So we've had the initiative almost 4 years. We're in our second year. And these CEOs, these kids, these high school seniors, have to start their own business. They have the first semester a class business, and the second semester they're doing their own business. But they've got about 50, I think, outside speakers that come in, and I don't know if you or somebody from the radio station
have been there. They came to the station and took the tour, and it was great to talk to them. They're all...
Yeah, and we've had accountants and lawyers, and the transformation from day one until graduation, I mean, they became young adults, and I really think because of this program.
Right.
And then learn so much in the business world.
I think, too, in today's economy in the Riverbend, you know, my dad graduated high school. College wasn't really going to be an option for him. His track was to graduate high school and go work at Olin or one of the many factory jobs available. Those just obviously are not there as much as they were.
They are now. Again, it's that circle. And the workforce is changing. There are so many people in those jobs that are getting ready to retire, and we don't have anything in the pipeline to fill it in. Now, most of them do need some education, whether it be technical programs at Lewis and Clark or Rankin, or even apprenticeship programs that requires schooling through Lewis and Clark. But there's a demand for those jobs, and they're good paying jobs without that college debt.
Right. Always something to consider. But having said all that, I do think the impact that small business is going to play going forward is just going to be even larger because, there's more opportunities out there. The internet makes it a lot more feasible to start a business,
to do your own thing,
expand your client base. And so to see young people taking that initiative and learning those skills is critical.
Yeah.
So being president of the Growth Association for 15 years, you've gotten to meet a lot of interesting folks and make a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And I guess it's been a year. You had a roast.
It was earlier this spring, yes.
What was that like? That had to be fun
in some way.
Fun. A little scary, I think.
It was scary. I was incredibly afraid of what was going to be said. But then again, I'm pretty truthful about who I am, so it wasn't a total shock on some of the things they said.
Was there somebody that really just you got you good when they went
Joe
up there?
Silkwood was awesome, but he was more roasting Mayor of Godfrey than he was me. But that's okay.
Well, that's what made it good, I guess. What was the most cringeworthy moment of the night for you, where you just said, "Oh, I can't believe"?
Oh, when I got up afterwards and I talked. It wasn't what they said.
When you had to talk. Okay. Yeah.
It's like, I can't believe you said that. I did think too, when my kids were talking. I had both boys were talking, and they talked about how when they were kids, we had to go to my mom's and set the VCR to record and get it off the blinking midnight screen. And now they come over and hook up my Wi-Fi and everything else. It's like, oh my gosh, I should still be able to do that.
Right. So, one of the cool things I always thought about being an advertising executive at the station was that I got to learn so much about so many different kinds of business, and you get that same thing in your role. What do you think successful businesses have in common, or have an understanding of, that maybe ones that don't have an understanding of?
Hard work. That it's not easy.
Right.
And one of my favorite saying is, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And I think a lot of people think, oh, he's so lucky, he's got that business, he got that piece of business or whatever. No, people work for that. Nothing just happens.
Right. I think there's a lot of parallels between being a salesperson and being a small business owner, because you are a salesperson if you're a small business owner.
Absolutely.
There's no two ways about it. And people that I'm talking to about going in sales, I always say it's the best self-development program you'll ever go through. because you have to get better, not just as as an employee, but as a person.
Yeah.
To be good at it. And I think that's, man, there's so many trials and tribulations every day. There's tough things that come across your desk and tough decisions
the word no.
to make.
Yeah, and the word no. I mean, that's tough. That's tough getting told no.
It's one thing I underestimated, and maybe you did too, but just every day now running a radio station, boy, there are at least 10 hard decisions that come across the desk every day that require hours of thought, and I have minutes to make the decisions typically. So that's another thing I think that it's something that it's impossible to prepare for.
Right, but thinking it through. I mean, that is, and weighing the pros and cons, and even that old-fashioned list of what's right, what's wrong, how do I deal with that?
So I think just being mentally tough and just being able to handle those things is critical as well, because obviously when you open a business, there's a great deal of optimism and hope and dreams of this is going to be great. Mm-hmm. And then 3 months in, it's not. Right.
And we see some, being in the business that we're in, people will come in and ask for advice and get information on lawyers or, what to incorporate. And we don't do a lot of that, but, we listen to their ideas and stuff. And some you just like to say, oh boy, you need to rethink this. You just need to rethink this. And you can ask them questions, but if they're on that path, they're going to go on that path. And it may be a difficult learning lesson for them. And you're just like, oh, you don't want to say I told you so, but
right.
You could have told them so.
Sure. Well, I think there's a balance, too, between it's somewhat of a leap of faith no matter what business you go into, but there also has to be a great deal of research before you choose what exactly you're going to do.
And the other thing, it's money. It's
Sure.
a whole lot of money that it just costs you time and money. It's what it takes to get a new business.
Right. What's the most rewarding part of your job?
Boy, I don't know. There are a lot of great things, and people are great. But when you do see a successful entrepreneur, and I can think of 3 good ones off the top of my head. Kathy Gross at Bluff City, and there's somebody who has put her dues in and from the bottom up and has made that Bluff City very successful. Liz Wirtz at Brush Hair and Makeup, going to school, she got her degree at Lewis and Clark, associate's degree at Lewis and Clark, and then she wanted to do cosmetology and then makeup and all that. She's got a great little business going, and again, she works very, very hard. What's my third one? I think his name is Sean Donnelly. I think it's his last name, from Discount
Liquidation Products.
Yes.
Yep.
And what a great story he's got. And he's down at Washington Square Plaza.
Right.
And it's just cool. I like to see those young entrepreneurs. It's just to be successful.
It's funny because you think of being a business owner and you probably look at an example of somebody who's very successful and it looks like, boy, they've just got it made. But they all went through some serious trials and tribulations to get there. Nobody that I know of
was handed anything.
Right. Or started off day one and just the floodgates opened and the business was great.
And there's those ebbs and flows as well. I was at Dwight Wirtz Welding's 60th anniversary open house. And I would say integrity is one of his highest traits. And he had 17 or 18 vendors or suppliers that were there, and they did kind of a little mini trade show. He invited customers, he invited friends, but the respect that he obviously has from all of those people, his employees and those people, and that, I think that's integrity.
Yeah, I agree. And we live in a strange world sometimes where you can watch a show like Shark Tank on CNBC, for example, and you think, if I can just come up with that one great idea. But that's hitting the lottery, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most successful businesses are ones that do little things well every day, and there aren't too many days where it's like, this was a great day of the cash register rang all day.
You survived.
That's usually what it is, right. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs getting started today in a business?
Work hard, do your research, get a mentor.
Yeah, mentorship is something that it requires you to have some humility to ask for help.
Absolutely, and to be able to hear the advice.
Right.
If you've got a good mentor, they're going to tell you things you don't want to hear.
And I think we're so fortunate because we do have such a great community of businesses where there are hundreds of business owners you could call today if you were starting out.
Absolutely.
And ask for help, and they'd be happy to take you under their wing,
Right.
really.
And back to the CEO program, that's one of the major components is having mentors, and we are looking for mentors if anybody's interested. But yeah, it's to help them and to ask questions. Do you think that's going to work? Okay, if you do this,
Right.
do you think this will happen, or what do you think will happen? So it just gives them another resource.
And there've already been some great successes come out of that program.
Yeah, CJ Nasello is our favorite. He is our first CEO student that graduated and then became a member. And now he's involved.
Isn't that
What's
cool?
so awesome? Yeah, it's so awesome. He is now on a committee that we're on for Gordon Moore Park. And he's contributing. Not only is he running his business, going to school, and playing soccer. I think he's going to play soccer at Lewis and Clark. But he's contributing, giving back to the community.
Right.
And that's kind of a common trait too. If you get involved in the community, people learn about your business through other ways, not just because they need you, but because you're involved in other things. Like, oh yeah.
I think another important aspect of being successful is you have been fortunate, I've been fortunate to just have great teams around us.
Absolutely.
And that's a skill that it's hard to learn as to how do you get that team in place.
A lot of that's trust as well, and if it's not working, dump it, get rid of it. Don't hold on to those relationships that aren't doing you any good. And I mean business wise too. If you're working with someone and you're doing all the work and they're taking the credit, that's not what you want to be in.
Right. And I'm sure you're happy. Obviously, it's a big help to have people that you can delegate things to. And
I've got an absolutely great staff too, and then. We've got a great board, and the folks on the board, and they do their part. Yeah. They do their part as well.
One thing I've thought about our area is, what is our identity going forward? What do you think the identity of the Riverbend is?
As far as we're a service area, we're not the manufacturing area that we used to be, and we're never going to be. And I hate that when I hear people disparaging the community because, we're never going to have Owens, Illinois, or that. No, we're never going to have it. And that's okay. Things change. But I think we've got a lot of great businesses, a lot of great companies that people don't realize that are out there. Westar, I think, has got about 400 employees. Those are great jobs.
Right.
High tech. And there are a whole lot of other businesses. No, we don't have companies with 3,500, 4,000 employees anymore. But there aren't a whole lot of companies that have that concentration, that number of employees in any one community. And it's not the way we're going to be.
You'll be doing this hopefully for a lot longer.
Hope
but
so.
in almost 15 years, what's your proudest accomplishment?
I don't know. Seeing the successful businesses, having the respect, I guess, of a lot of people, a lot of those both big businesses and small businesses. Having them come to us and say, hey, we need this, can you help? And we being able to point them in the right direction.
Right.
I don't take credit for any one business, any one thing, but I would venture to say that we work with each of the municipalities in a lot of different ways to bring businesses that have come in. Sure.
Well, I'll finish with this. Fast forward 5 years, maybe 10 years. What do you hope for this community from a business standpoint?
I want to see a lot more growth and development on basically each end of the community. So Godfrey down to Roxana, South Roxana, there's a lot of property that can be developed. I want to see Alton Square thriving, and I do believe that the owners, the people that they have in place, have a good plan for that. And again, I hear the disparaging remarks, and oh no, that's never going to happen. Malls are different now than they were 40 years ago when that one opened, but there are still successful malls, and I think we can have a successful Parkway there again too. So
Sure.
more businesses.
Okay. I said I'd finish with that, but one last chance to pitch the services of the Growth Association. If somebody has a business and they're not in, why should they join?
Well, we're in the business of supporting and growing businesses, individual businesses, and bringing businesses into the community. We've got a lot of marketing services, a lot of ways that you can network and get your word, your name, your business out. And it's a very, very economical way of growing your business.
Great. Monica, thanks for joining us on Business
It's
Over
great.
Brew, and thanks for all you do for the community.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you.